Hello everyone and welcome to the latest video in the Model Railway series. Now today we're doing a tale of 3 Class 60s. Now I'd love for it to be 4 Class 60s, but the Acura Scale one isn't quite here at the time of recording and I don't actually have one on pre-order. So we're going to look at 3 generations of Class 60 models in double O gauge, going from the oldest, which is the Lima over here, into the Hornby model, which was very much lauded back in the day when it released. Can you believe it's been over 10 years? But anyway, and then finally into the latest release, which is the Cavalex models. And the reason this video is coming now and not way back in February when the Cavalex Class 60 started arriving on the UK shores is because this is from batch 2. But let's run the intro and I'll explain more about it. So yes, here we are. So Cavalex, which I think we're all pronouncing it wrong. I think it should be Cavalex because it's an amalgamation of Cav and Alex, who are the owners of the company. And yeah, so moving forward, we are going to call it the Cavalex Class 60. Now, I have been waiting for this for 2.5 years. It was way back in February of 2023 when they announced these and pre-orders were available. I could not click that button quick enough. I was looking at buying a Hornby one and then this guy got announced and I was like, yes, click that button. I want a Cavalex Class 60. Now this is over a year before Acura Scale announced theirs, and I'm not going to get into who actually come up with the idea first, who started developing first. It's, you know, the internet's rife with that. The important thing is this model is here. The Acura Scale one is imminent. It may even be weeks away. I'm not sure at this point. So yeah, now why am I frustrated with Cavalex and Rails of Sheffield, funnily enough, on this model? So as I say, pre-ordered it 2.5 years ago. They didn't say when it would be released at that time, which is fine. But a few months later, I brought myself a Hellion 165 DE. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware of the issues with those. I ordered one from Rails Sheffield. It came, it was an absolute dog. Did not run, and the more running in, the worse it got. The body shell didn't fit properly, and that was that was all of the problem. Basically, if you pick up a Hellion 165, you'll notice that the body shell does not fit properly without modification. And this is the entire range that has this problem. So, yeah. So I got mine and promptly sent it back, and Rails were great about it. The person I spoke to, I can't remember his name, it was so long ago, but he said, right, what I'm going to do is before we send out another one, I'm going to go and check our stocks and see what we have. And he come back to me and went, you know what, we have issues with every single Ruston 165 DE regardless of the livery, he said, what we have in stock, I'm not happy sending out to you. I don't think you'll be happy receiving it. So in this case, I would recommend a refund. And I was like, you know what? Fair play to them. They could have just sent me another one and hoped that I was satisfied. But no, that was fine. And in the same conversation, he said, actually, I have noticed you've got this Class 60 on pre-order. And he didn't say, and this is partly on me, he didn't say when it would be released. He just went, I can see this on pre-order. To save in a few months or so you haven't sent money back, would you like me to allocate this refund to that instead? To which I replied, yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool, we'll do that. Saves you sending me money and me sending you money in a few months. So that's what we agreed to. That was 2 years ago. And they had the money sitting there. And worst of all is it never actually appeared against the Class 60. If I went to my pre-orders, it didn't show that I had effectively paid for the entire thing already. So after a year, I rung up and said, like, what's going on with this? I can't see the money allocated. There's no release date for this yet. What's the story? And the young lady that I spoke to that time went, no, we can see it our end. Just because of how it's allocated, it doesn't show through the system. But rest assured, the money is there. So, okay, roll on. Finally, beginning of this year, the Class 60s are arriving. Then they're due in February. And they arrived in February. However, the livery I had ordered, which isn't this one actually, it was the load haul livery. That wasn't part of the order. And I went, what? But I've pre-ordered it 2 years ago. How? Okay, it'll probably be a few extra weeks. Fair enough. It took another 6 months for it to arrive. And during that time, there's been no communication. I still don't know what the delay was. I don't know why there was 2 separate batches and why it's taken so long for batch number 2 to arrive. Like, nothing. And so my thoughts were at that time, right, this model needs to be exceptional, because if it's not, I'm going to be mightily annoyed. So much so that a few weeks ago, I was considering cancelling altogether. However, I couldn't cancel because the response I got was, if you do cancel, you will lose your deposit. Bear in mind, I hadn't put a £30 deposit or anything down. I had put £190 deposit down effectively. And I went, ugh, okay. And I said, well, you know, I've found Swindon Dalesman, which is the load haul livery, from another manufacturer now. I have it. It's not on the table here, but oops. Ignore that falling in the background. I'll check on that in a minute. But yes, so what we had was this. Okay, well, I've got an order for a locomotive that I don't know when it's arriving, but I already have it from another manufacturer, albeit the Lima model. What do I do? So I said, well, look, can I change it at least to this one, which is exclusive to Rails of Sheffield, which is 60081. And he went, normally we wouldn't, but, you know, special case, yes, we do have extras coming in, so yes, I will do that. So, you know, thumbs up for Rails Sheffield on that one. But anyway, let's take a closer look, shall we? Now, bearing in mind, this isn't actually a review video. If you want a review, there's loads of other people that specialise in reviews and will give you better information. The point of this video is to compare it to what's come before and, kind of give you an informed view of what is currently out there, minus the Acura scale. Bear in mind that is coming, and let you make up your own mind. Is it worth it? And what features were important to you? Okay, so the first loco we're going to look at is actually the oldest of the trio that I'm going to feature on today's video, and this is the Lima model, which is 60008 mole per mile, and I have owned this for 20 years, maybe a little bit more, and it came to me second hand. So these were released late 90s, I believe, and it's very much a model of its time. And having said that, Lima are, if looked after, they can be practically bomb-proof. The mechanical side of it is, very robust, and you can just power these forever. And they pull pretty well too, considering their relative lack of weight. And what do I mean by that? Well, we've got it on the scales here, and it's tipping the scales at 423 grams, which actually it doesn't feel that. Is that right? Let me try zeroing out my scales, because that doesn't feel right to me. Right, let's power on again, because I may be talking absolute nonsense here. Right. Doesn't need to be on the scales. No, 421 grams on the scales. Now the limitations of this model, because of its age, so we have these grills which have a representation of what's going on, but as you can see, they are solid. So there is no see-through grills there. And as far as everything else goes with the underframe detail, it's there. Is it completely accurate? Not really. It is a bit basic, which you'll see when we compare to both of the other models. But it's perfectly fine. This is a layout loco. If all you want is something that looks good on your layout, I say this is perfectly fine. Now, one thing you will notice is this window here. It's not quite right. It should be a proper 3-pane window, whereas this should be a 2-pane. And they look a bit on the small side compared to the others. If we didn't have the others here to compare to, though, this would be perfectly fine. I mean, if I tilt it over so we can look at the top detail, so everything's there. I can't fault it. The grille, obviously lacking finesse again. It is solid. And if we have a look at the detail on the bogies, again, it's perfectly fine. It's a perfectly good model. I think if I actually get it on screen, so the front is represented well. This is probably a terrible example, because what we should be looking at is this end. So very much of its time with a very large decoupler on there. But that's a relatively simple fix. And you do have, if I can get the right angle, a representation of the cab interior. So again, for a model of its age, you really can't complain. No sprung buffers, of course. Now, a little thing about sprung buffers, realistically, they're not important at all. It boggles the mind when a certain YouTuber, and I'm just going to say his name, Sam's Trains, will, and nothing against the guy, I've never met him, I have nothing against him personally. You know, he's a successful YouTuber and fair play to him. But his insistence on marking a model down for not having sprung buffers just boggles my mind, because realistically, in 00, it's pointless. Absolutely pointless having sprung buffers. And the reason I say this is because they don't do anything. Sure, when it's in your hand and you're pushing the buffer and it's sprung, it's all good fun and everything. But in use, you know, you're using rigid couplers, be it tension locks, be it Hunt magnetics, Spratt and Winkle, KDs, whatever coupler, it's relatively rigid and you're not using the sprung buffers. Now, if you were using the 3 links or what have you, of course, these wouldn't actually have 3 links. As you can see there on the Hornby one, if I can get this guy to focus. There we go. So yeah, if you're using modern couplings and you're actually connecting this up to something else, you know, that's all good and well. But if you're just using standard couplings, it doesn't matter. Anyway, rant over about that, and let's move on to the Hornby model. So immediately I can tell this weighs a bit more, and if we put it on the scales, 641, so 50% heavier than, is that right? Yeah. Late in the day when I'm recording this, but yeah, so the maths does check out. So 50% heavier, give or take, and that instantly aids traction and allows you to pull more stuff. The grills, if we take a look, so you can see into the engine bay on this one. However, the other end is still solid. Like there's a mesh there, but then there's a wall of plastic behind it. However, the underframe detail, as you can see, vastly improved. And with the bogies, you've got the ladder and just all the small pipe detail, which actually I have to give credit to Hornby for that. And another cool feature, although this falls into one of those pointless things, if I can get it to do it, we have sprung loaded doors, and we do have sprung buffers on this. But remember, if you're not using proper couplings, you're not going to need to compress the buffers on your model railway. So it's a cool feature, but I don't think it's an essential feature. So my horn seems to be facing down there. Not sure what's going on there, but yeah. But just generally finer detail. You see the mesh is still solid, but it's finer representation there. We have the plate on there, which when we move on to the next one, I do have the plates and everything to put on, but this is fresh out the box, so I haven't done so yet. But again, very fine model, and if we look in the cab of this one, you can see much greater detail. And you know what, if you can find these at the right price, I say get one, because it runs great and it looks great. There's a lot to be said for the Hornby model, especially considering its age. And I did hear that they're doing a new release of them, and part of me thought, why on earth, when Acura Scale are bringing theirs to market, Cavalex have theirs out, So I hope that doesn't fall down and bite Hornby in the backside, but I don't know if it's all new tooling or not. If it is, great, cool, awesome. If it's not, they're going to have to come in at a lower price point than what the other guys are, because yeah, it's just not going to cut it. And anyway, talking of the newer models, in comes the new boy. So what we have here, thank you Scales for turning off right as I go to place this down. So we're tipping the scales at 696 grams. So 55 grams more than the Hornby model. But I think you can see detail wise, and bear in mind, as I say, 10+-year-old tooling on the Hornby. This is brand new, so I would expect it to be better. But let's bring it in for a close-up. Now, I will mention these are all DC models. I haven't gone for the DCC version, although sorely tempted, and I would like to get a DCC sound, one of these Cavalexes for next year. But the primary use is going to be on our NCMA modular railway, which, is DC. So I don't have the light up engine bay, although the features are there. In DC we don't get to use it. But look at all that pipework on that bogie. It actually scares me, because I'm worried about it getting broken. But yeah, the detail and the fact that they've just picked out little things that, I kind of wish Hornby had. Just, I don't know. Now, not everyone will have the white pipework and everything that this has. This is, of course, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, so this had all the bells and whistles. But again, we have that lovely cab interior, and both the Hornby and this one do light up in the cab for direction of travel. So I do need to go and put drivers in both of these. However, this one has a party trick that I've not tried yet, but you'll notice if I stop messing about and actually get it in shot, we have a very nice buffer beam detail here. But if we do this, we have no buffer beam, because we have in here a nice little baggie which has a slot cut out for the NEM pocket, so you can fit whatever couplings you like. And if you look, 2020 hindsight, I should have took this out of the bag beforehand, but you can see the two magnets, which is what matches up to the two magnets in here. And yeah, just hot swappable. And that is going to be amazing, because when I'm running it on the modular, I can just hot swap the buffer beams out, put the couplings on both ends, and when I'm running at home or a display piece, there we go. So what doesn't it have? Well, it doesn't have sprung doors. I don't care. It does have sprung buffers. Again, I don't care. I mean, it's nice and it's cool, but they're gimmicky features. The critical thing is, how does it look? Does it look like a Class 60, and will it run well? Well, I'm happy to say, as a ladder falls off in my hand, a bit worried about that. So they've not used an awful lot of glue sticks on. In fact, that may just be a push fit, but I'll have a look at that after the end of this video. So yeah, be careful of the detail. As I say, if you are going for something that's just going to sit on the layout and run, consider one of these. 40 to 50 pounds they're currently going for on eBay. You'll probably find them elsewhere for similar price. The Hornby one, if you can find it at the right price, i.e. sub 150, and it runs well, if it's a second hand, go for it. If you want the latest and greatest, or it comes down to a £200 model, this is the one to get at the moment, just for these hot swappable. And the cab, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm told that you just get your nails in and pop the body off, and the entire body shell comes off with just 4 clips holding it, which should be somewhere here and here. Pop the seat out, stick your driver in it, pop the seat back in, and you're ready to go. So anyway, yeah, that is going to conclude the look at the 3 different Class 60s I have. I absolutely love Class 60s. This one, the Hornby one, will always have a special place in my heart, because, well, I've not only ridden behind the real thing, but I have the headboard that was on the rail tour that I was on this loco, and you can find pictures of it online. It was the Humberside rail tour back in 2011, I think it was. I was on that. I have the headboard for the real thing, and I want to try and find a company that will make the headboard in miniature for me. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. I am planning another video to accompany this, kind of looking at the various TEA wagon models that are available. Now, the only issue is I'm struggling to find both the Revolution Trains TEAs and the Cavalex TEAs at a reasonable price, because neither of those are available new. which is quite shocking in the case of the Cavalex, because, you know, the TEAs run with the Class 60s. They're synonymous with them. But you can't buy the TEA wagons. Now you can buy the Class 60s. It's yeah, mind-blowing to me. So Cavalex, please pull your finger out, re-release the TEAs, and also please work on your communication, because, as I say, I have no idea why I had to wait an extra 6 months for my model. And it's kind of, yeah, it's made me a bit hesitant about buying another Cavalex model on pre-order. Alright, that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Do you agree with anything I said? Do you disagree with everything I said? Let me know. Do you have one of these models? How do you rate it? Do you have any of the other ones? How do you rate those? Let me know down in the comments and we'll get the discussion going. That said, thanks everyone for watching. Bye for now.